Hello, and welcome to the We Are Power podcast. If this is your first time here, the We Are Power podcast is the podcast for you, your career, and your life. We release an episode every single Monday with listeners in over 60 countries worldwide, where you'll hear personal life stories, top-notch industry advice, and key leadership insight from amazing role models. As We Are Power is the umbrella brand to Northern Power Women Awards, which celebrates hundreds of female role models and advocates every year. This is where you can hear stories from all of our awards alumni and stay up to date with everything MPW Awards and We Are Power. Today, I am delighted to be joined by Krystina Pearson-Rampeearee, who is an aerospace engineer, small business owner, serial planner I get from your Instagram. Krystina, welcome to the pod.
Thank you for having me. Yes, I am a serial planner.
You are?
I have to plan my whole life is planned out.
I saw that you put a reel out earlier this month, and it was like, this is who I am, and I love that. To-do lists, planning. Yeah. What's your top tip for planning? Busy women with all these different kind of things that we do and, you know, the lifelong juggle. What's your top tips?
Colour coordinated Google Calendar. That's how we survive in our house, basically. Yeah.
Love that. And I cannot go on without talking about that amazing shirt. Okay. Talk to us about that. Made by a small business owner.
Yes. So this is a shirt from Pine and Treasure. So she acquires kind of secondhand shirts, and then you could get them embroidered. So I've got mine with my two young children's names and then Mama on, but I've got different ones with my initials on, and I'm just obsessed with them.
And you are really, really passionate about supporting small business as a small business career woman, but also small business owner, haven't you? And so I'm very proud to have my Women in Maritime badge, which is from your organisation. But this side hustle came, was it during COVID or before?
It was just after the first lockdown. So yeah, and it wasn't anything planned. It was just, we were in lockdown and I was like on Etsy looking for pin badges, couldn't find the one that I wanted, and then thought, why don't I do it myself? And
if not me, who, right?
Yeah. 4 years later, it's a small business and I'm still running it, and I've got over 50 odd badges in my shop, and yeah, it's wild.
Because it did start, this is what an engineer looks like. That was the whole vibe, wasn't it? It's like you couldn't see, and so you thought, right, I'm going to make this.
It was, yeah. So always been told I don't look like an engineer, so I wanted a badge that said this is what an engineer looks like, and couldn't see it, and decided to get it made. And then lots of people reached out. I'm a scientist, I'm a physicist, I'm a pilot, and I just started, adding these new badges, and part of the proceeds giving past the proceeds to various charities, and I've sold thousands now, and I just didn't imagine that would ever happen.
What's your favourite badge? That's probably like saying, well, who's your favourite child, right?
Yeah. Probably this is what an engineer looks like, just because it was the first one, and it's the one I always wear.
What's the next one? Is the one in mind? One in the pipeline?
So the next one, I'm planning to bring out a women in motorsport one, and this is what a dentist looks like.
Oh. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because you talk about, this is all your sort of side hustle straight after COVID, and, you're an engineer by trade, but you did this. It's all about not being able to, you talk about you can't be what you can't see. And I think you are, on your social medias, you are an exemplar in how to be a role model. At what point did you realise you were that role model? Because you're always out there. You go and speak at everything, whether it be at big global conferences or into the school because it was Engineering Day last month in November, or whether it was National Day of the Girl or whatever. You're there, aren't you? You're present and you will turn up. But what was that point that went, I'm going to do this?
Yeah, so it started really small. So started off doing things in COVID, well, just before COVID, and then COVID happened. So it was more like virtual things that I was supporting, speaking to classes and just doing lots of like small little virtual events and things. And then once we came out of COVID, I started doing small like in-person events, and that built up and built up. And then I think it was only when I started getting emails from just kind of randomly being like, have you got time for a quick chat? I'd really love to kind of hear more about your career and get your advice on some things. And it was when that started happening that I thought, I've become a person that people want to go and speak to. I mean, I didn't picture it happening. And it's you end up doing lots of things, and then suddenly you start getting some feedback from it, and it's not something I expected. And I was like, I can't believe this person wants to speak to me. Why do they want to speak to me? But yeah, that's when I started realizing actually I am becoming that role model that I didn't have when I was younger. And if I can be helpful, if I can be, point them to resources, just explain some of the failures I've had, not just the successes, and just highlight things to them that I've gone through in my career, then that's great if I can share that knowledge with them.
And what would you say to, because I think there's something about showing the failure moments, because sometimes that goes, oh gosh, that's so much more relatable. It's not all perfect. It's one straight line trajectory is not for everyone. It doesn't work like that.
Social media looks like, everything's amazing and you've had the perfect life, but things have not always gone to plan, and it's just pivoting. That's what I've done. And it's just explaining that, that's the realities of how I've ended up where I am. I've pivoted a lot, and it's because of failures, because things haven't gone the way I planned, and, showing them that even if they fall at the first hurdle, it's not the end of the world.
And what would you say to anyone out there that want to be role model? Because for me, everyone's a role model to someone. Mm-hmm. What would you say to that person who's sort of skirting around the edge or sat on the side or procrastinating about leaning in because they've been asked to speak at a school, or they've been asked to, or haven't been asked, but actually I'd quite like to go and talk? What would you say?
I'd say reach out. I'd say one of the things I say when I sometimes do these talks is that everyone, like you said, is a role model. You may not know it. You may be a role model to a colleague, a family friend, one of your family. And, if it's something you are thinking about, great, go for it. I think I've learned by doing these small things that have turned into bigger things that you don't know that you'll like something until you try it, and you might end up loving it, or you might know that it's not something you want to do again, but you won't know unless you give it a go. And who knows where you'll end up. And
it's finding your own sort of you be you, isn't it? Because it doesn't necessarily have to be stood up in a big, massive school assembly or a big, massive stage at a business conference. It can be smaller things, can't it? Or actually be putting articles out on LinkedIn or whatever it may be. It can be different things. You can role modeling.
It can be YouTube videos. It can be, I did an event a few weeks ago, Festival of the Girl, and it was great. So I was speaking, but I ended up there was lots of cushions around and lots of young girls and their parents all sat on these cushions. I ended up, there was a stage, but I just sat on the edge of the stage and I ended up chatting to them. And it was such a safe atmosphere, and it felt really, personal. And, things like that, experiences like that are just fantastic.
And that's the thing, isn't it? Sometimes I remember speaking to a really senior chief exec many years ago, and I invited her to come and speak, and she was like, yes, I'd love to. It's a real mixed audience of future talent and emerging talent. She was like, that's brilliant, it's exactly what I love. And she goes, could someone ask me the questions? And you're like, okay, this is a FTSE 250 CEO. She was like, I prefer to chat rather than just stand up and deliver. And I think actually put yourself in the best position you can that you're most comfortable with to deliver those messages.
And it's about connecting with the people that you're speaking to as well, isn't it? If you're speaking to a few young girls, you don't want to be kind of talking and there's a jargon over their heads. I think you want to be connecting with them. And
it takes the barrier away, doesn't it? I saw that picture. Yeah. I saw that picture of you just sort of sat on the edge, leaning in to go, I'm here. Ask me any question. Ask me an awkward one. Even more the better. And actually last year we were doing we do these talent connection events where we bring students together with individuals from industry, all sectors. And we did something up at the university, and you came along with Ava. Yeah. How old was Ava at that point?
Oh gosh. So she must have been a couple of months, if that, maybe less.
And you came along and we did, it was probably a good couple of hours, wasn't it? With a speed mentoring, moving from sort of group to group. And she was quiet as a mouse.
That's the best thing at that point. All she did was sleep. So I could tag along to anything. She wouldn't know what's going on.
But I remember afterwards, I think I've said this to you before, one of the heads of department came up to me afterwards and said they had a mature student and she'd gone up and said, I literally wasn't sure what I might get from an event like this, but actually one of the biggest things I've got is to realise that I was worried that I'm an older student and what's my career prospects going to be. I never even imagined that I'm a mum. I never even realised that actually kids and babies are welcome in the workplace. And it was such a visible statement, and obviously and she didn't even speak to you, but that you just being visible in that moment made such a big difference.
Yeah, and it's something that when I had my first, so Ava's my second child. When I had my first child, I didn't really do a lot because I wasn't doing a lot of these events and things. It was only after his birth kind of spurred me on afterwards to kind of get involved and start speaking and things. And when Ava was around, I was getting invited to things, and I was like, well, I'm on maternity leave. I am available if I can bring her along. And, most of the time they said, yeah, bring her. And she went to London. She went to the Royal Academy of Engineering for 2 days, and she just slept most of the time. But we had a great time. And, those are kind of memories that I'll never forget. But
you need to get her on LinkedIn already, right?
She's been very lucky. She's met incredible people already. But I wouldn't have known unless I'd asked. And I kind of felt cheeky enough to kind of ask, because why not? What's the worst can happen? They'll say no, which is what, I would have expected. But most of the time they said yes. And I never thought about the impact of that, of someone seeing something like that and it, being relatable to them. I just kind of did it. But it's great that I did that and people could take something away from that, oh yeah, you can, ask to have kids at these things, showcasing that I did have Ava. Oh, you can have a career after having a child. It's not sometimes, they say, it's the end of your career. There's nothing up, and we do lose a lot of women in engineering and generally kind of after having a child, but, it doesn't have to be that way. And you can show that there is positive stories as well. To showcase it's not all.
And this is return for you. It's return from maternity leave 2.0,
yes,
right?
Yes.
And I loved your post the other week this is what I'm looking forward to after maternity leave. And it was going back to the gym, building up my flying hours, being able to have drinks and food hot. Engaging my brain at work, booking holidays, 4-day weeks, and appreciating quality time with the kids. Yes. How's that working out for you so far?
Yeah. Oh, it's good to have a refresher, actually. I've been back 5 weeks.
It's accountability, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now you've written it down, you put it on socials.
Yes. No, thank you for keeping me accountable. I need to go back to that. But I am doing a lot of those things. I've started working, put myself on a waiting list to start building up my flying hours again, and start to put myself out there. I think I needed to put a list together because I was also quite sad about going back, so I needed some things to look forward to as well, to say, these are things that I'm looking forward to, and I'm sad, but also there is going to be good things that happen after I go back to work and she starts nursery. So it was trying to make it positive for myself, and it's helped.
It's part of your planning.
Yeah,
this is the equivalent of your colour-coded Google spreadsheet, isn't it, right?
There's a plan I put together before I went back, and these are the things I want to do, and and keeping myself accountable.
And does it feel very different sort of coming back back into work after Ava as it was after George?
Yeah, I think it does, because the first mat leave was before COVID, so there wasn't a hybrid kind of working. I didn't really involve myself a lot with what was going on, but this time I kind of kept in touch. I made sure I knew what was going on, so I felt more prepared, did more keep in touch days, so used what was available in terms of the resources available, and felt way more prepared. And I've just gone in, and it's been a busy few weeks, but I'm loving being back again, and I'm right back in the thick of things, so it's all good.
And what advice would you give? Because you say we lose a lot of women in every sector, but particularly engineering. We're losing a lot of women not coming back in, or sort of limiting where they come back, when they come back into the world of work. Is it by giving yourself goals? Is it, how do you?
I've given myself goals. I've gone back 4 days a week because I do want to spend that quality time with Ava. So we do a little baby class on a Friday, which is lovely. Spending time just us. And I make sure I have that, as I said, on my list, quality time. And also kind of as a serial planner, plan my days so I'm not working, I don't want to fall into the trap of throwing myself back in, but then, work-life balance, forgetting that. So trying to keep to my plans of, this is how I set out my day. This is my plan to try and have a walk at lunch, try and get out, get some fresh air. And just try and, not throw myself in too much, but enjoy it all.
And for someone who's watching this, who's not really sure what they want their career adventure to be, again, I'm living vicariously through your Instagram feed, but you talked about this is what an engineer looks like. We talked about your fabulous badges, but you actually, sometimes people have assumption of what an engineer is.
Yeah.
Where, you put out, well, you can do this, you can do that. It's not a one size fits all career, is it? There's lots of different. How did you find your way into engineering? And did you know they were all available?
No, I didn't know they were all available. I basically wanted to do I thought about doing engineering because I loved solving problems and enjoyed maths and physics. So that led me to engineering. I didn't know what type until I went to an air show. Saw lots of fast jets flying around, the red arrows, all these like fancy jets flying around, and thought, cool, aerospace. Googled it and was like, that's what I'm going to do. But only because of that did I really fall into it. Once I decided to do that, I didn't know what job I was going to do. I didn't know what jobs were out there. I just started applying once I finished university. So I would say, yeah, it's, there are going to be jobs that don't exist yet, that, people are just finishing school, university now. There's going to be so many jobs in the future that we don't know about yet. It's exciting. I think that's the thing that I've learned in the past few years, is being open to opportunities, because especially engineering, I've been able to pivot and do lots of different things, try lots of different things, end up where I didn't plan to end up, only because someone said, why don't you try this? And I was like, why not? And yeah, that's how my career's basically gone the last few years. And people say, where do you want to be in 10 years? And I'm like, I have no idea where I'm going to be. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what opportunities are going to happen. Who knows? But that's the exciting part.
I think, it's limitless almost, isn't it? As the world evolves and as technology evolves and everything around infrastructure evolves, it's going to change, isn't it? It reminds me actually of, it was a few years back and we'd just come out of the Northern Power Women Awards on the Monday, and we had a visit to HMS Queen Elizabeth. In my role as honorary captain in the Royal Navy, and you came on board with some of the Northern Power Women team and gang, and I remember everyone was like, "This is really so exciting!" And you spent, I think, a good half an hour looking at the engineering and the infrastructure and everything that was on that warship, going, "Ah,
you can't take the engineer out of the girl." You can take her on the boat, you can't take the engineer out of the girl. Yeah.
So as you've come back into the world of work again, not that by looking at your feed, it didn't look as though you had much time away, but what are you excited for in the year ahead?
What am I excited for? So I guess, planning holidays next year. So not just the career stuff, but holidays, but also just developing my career, moving forward, seeing what comes up. A lot more kind of, talks, putting myself out there, seeing what happens from that. I think it's the unknown that excites me now. And that's the thing that used to scare me, which is quite weird, because I didn't used to have a lot of confidence, and I was quite shy, and I'd like to be really prepared for things. But I think now I've come to learn, it's the unknown and things that happen that are actually the exciting part. And I think that is what I'm looking forward to. And seeing where my career goes, because I may be kind of a bit further on in my career, but that doesn't make it any less exciting. And who knows what's going to turn up. And
you were invited earlier this year to the Woman of the Year lunch, which you were invited to last year, but you couldn't go because you were just about to have a baby.
Yes.
and this is an amazing lunch that they have in London. I think it's been around 70 years or something like that now. And I've been a couple of times. It's amazing. And there's literally full of everyone, from sports people to entrepreneurs to celebrities to everything. Who was the highlight of your day and who you met?
Oh, I mean, there were so many. It was amazing to see, people like, oh my gosh, I can't even, there's so many off the top of my head.
Angela Rippon, that's who you met.
You know what? I got to hold her phone and take a photo for her. So that's my kind of highlight of the day. So surreal, honestly. It was, I think I spent the whole day just being in awe, and it didn't really settle, didn't really sink in the experience or what I'd done until maybe a week later. And I was starting work the next day, but my return to work was the next day from maternity leave. So I had that event and I was like, whoa, empowered, inspired. And I was like, wow, this is really surreal. To think that I would be invited to an event like that, I would have never imagined in a million years. So.
You are the most humble role model ever, I think. Well, Krystina, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate all your wisdom, insight, and of course, my new badge, Women in Maritime.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Krystina. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us today. Subscribe on YouTube, Apple, Amazon Music, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a review or follow us on socials. We are power_net on Insta, TikTok and Twitter. Or We Are Power on LinkedIn, Facebook. And We Are _power on YouTube.